The bliss and the joy of spring. Springtime, summertime, tranquility, out in the natural environment is the closest anyone's going to get to heaven. It is in actual fact heaven, only for most people it isn't obtainable to that degree, because they have to let go of all this stuff. So I'm going to be speaking about some of the subject matter in my book. And in my book I speak about the concepts of heaven and hell, and how I've been to both and much in between. And those of you who have read Dante's Divine Comedy, then you'll know that he went to hell, he went to purgatory, and then he went to heaven. So he visited all those places and he wrote extensively about them. And so that's what I've done also. It's the same journey. It's the dark night of the soul coupled with the hero's journey. It takes a long time, and it takes you very, very deep and very, very high. And after you're completely transformed, a different person. And so I remember one of the comments, I think it was in relation to my book, and someone said, now that the book's out, oh, that's all well and good, but those days are over. Really? Reading books is over for most people, it is true. And for anybody who does no longer read books, then you are all very firmly in the clasp of degeneration, manipulation, control, submission, subversion. You are exactly where the world masters want you to be, when all you can do is focus for a couple of minutes on a screen. You see, many people, many of you, you've been around YouTube for many years, the same as I have. But if you only gather your information from YouTube, then all the information you gather is superficial. Because whatever anyone is speaking about in an hour's video is only scratching the surface of what any book on the same subject is going to be touching upon. So when we listen to all these authors and they're speaking about their hypothesis or whatever they've written about, if we are intrigued by what they're saying, then we have to purchase the books. We simply do. Because otherwise you will never get the full picture. You will always be like water boatmen, these little creatures that live on the surface of water. They don't take flight and they don't swim. They live in a two-dimensional world, and they have a two-dimensional consciousness. And so anybody that doesn't delve deep, doesn't pick up a book that's going to take them 10-20 hours to read, forget it. You will never understand or even come close to gleaning the intricacies about what this world is, what life is, what the cosmos is all about. You have to delve very, very deep, long and hard and forever, for all of your lives. because there's so much to learn. Now in my hand here I have my book's table of contents, and it constitutes 8 pages. And on each page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. There's about 35 subheadings. And so 1 page, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be reading out a few of these subject matter, so you have a little bit of an idea of what's in the book and whether you're going to be interested in reading it. Now that of course is over and above whether you actually have the constitution to read a book that apparently now is like 725 pages. I don't know what the final page count is going to be until all the formatting has been submitted to Amazon, and then they'll tell me what it is, because this company I'm dealing with don't know their arm from their fucking arseholes. They are a bunch of fucking idiots, and it's been a living hell having a relationship with that company for this past 3 weeks, because it's like we are speaking a completely different language. We come from different paradigms and dimensions of consciousness, and it doesn't matter how explicit I write something down with my instruction and I explain what I want to achieve via screenshots to see what exactly is going on, and yet I don't understand what you're saying, Aaron, and all different sorts of nonsense. And then, you know, this person, the company is it's called Amazon Publishing Company, but it isn't anything to do with Amazon. All they've done is borrowed that name, and they compile the criteria for Amazon's self-publishing. So I think that's the only way they get away with using Amazon's name. So they are the go-betweens, because to self-publish you need a lot of information about a lot of things. You need to be able to graphically design your cover, you need to be able to do the editing, the formatting, the page layout, you need to be able to construct different pages using text boxes and illustrations and all different sorts of things. You've got to know a lot of stuff, and so I opted for the option of having someone else do that. And initially this company wanted $3,000, but then they tell me that, well, at this moment in time, if you take it today, then we can reduce that by half, and so we can offer for $1,500. And after some negotiating on the phone with the salesperson, giving a very, very hard sales, I told them that I've already got my cover, I don't need that. I've already done my editing, I don't need that. Just need a little bit of formatting and needs to be uploading onto Amazon. And so they said, okay, well, the least we can do it for is 500 quid. So I said, okay, do it. And so since then it's been a complete nightmare, because it's like the company, they're American based, but they are farming out all the work to people in Indonesia, India, or Africa, or somewhere like that, where there's a complete lack of communication. Just like I'm having a lack of communication speaking to somebody who, you know, speaks English, and you would think that can understand English, but they can't. And this is what we find, and this is what I've found in my life. And going out into the everyday public is a constant reiteration of the vast variance of human consciousness. And all my life I've come upon people who have failed me because they could never answer my questions. They could never tell me what it is that they want from me, or why they want it, or because they're always following orders. Everyone's following orders, and you know, it's a pyramidical system. It's top down, and nobody knows why they're doing anything. They've just been told themselves, and then all they can do is tell you. And if you question them why, they don't go. They don't know. They've not got a clue. Nobody's got a clue, people. Nobody knows who's running this shop, and any of you that are into the conspiracies, which I'm assuming lots of you are, then you know you would have come upon this time and time again. And so this is why I don't deal with the public, because I'm in a very, very different paradigm of consciousness, and I could relate to other people, but they need to be highly intelligent. And when I'm reading people's books who are highly intelligent, then I grasp the vast majority of what they say, and it just seems elementary to me. There's a lot to be said, you know, for this old soul thing, because when we're an old soul, we've lived thousands of lives. Unconsciously, we've had all that experience, and we intuitively know. And so spiritual people, awoken people, enlightened people are very intuitive, because we call upon another level of intelligence, another level of consciousness, which is over and above and outside of everyday brain consciousness. It's on a completely different level, and it's a sort of level that, you know, Edgar Cayce would be speaking about, Elena Petrova Blavatsky, Rudolf Steiner, Alan Watts, you know, lots of these intellectuals, they're coming from an old soul perspective, and they're trying to impart their knowledge and wisdom to much younger souls, and you can't do it. Never the twain shall meet. There's a lack of comprehension. You need actually to be an old soul to understand and grasp old soul information. If you are not an old soul, you will never grasp it. Sometimes in our lives, those of us who are old souls, we will speak to people, and in an instant they get it. They know what you're saying. They're not necessarily listening to the words. They're speaking telepathically with you. They're already intuiting what you are saying, and the words have little to do with it, you see, because we understand at a higher level. Language is a very, very poor option for conveying anything, and this is why nobody will ever understand the universe via language. Everybody gets completely confused. That's why the only way that intellectuals speak about this cosmos is in math, because math is standard throughout all levels of consciousness. You either get it or you don't. There can't be any confusion. Either you get it because your consciousness is high enough to be able to interpret it, or you don't. And that's the difference. That's the vast difference of you know, the intellectual. And so you'll find that the vast majority of philosophers were mathematicians, because they work in a very, very logical and structural manner. And so over this past I suppose you say it's 2 years now. I've gone through a lot of changes, and I can't bring myself often to make videos, but I'm making one today to try to impart what anybody can expect from my book. And if I get a reasonable response to keep me intrigued, to give me reason to start to talk about the book, because ideally what I want to do is, once the book has been published, and some of you may have bought it, then I'm offering the option for anyone that's bought it and read it, or is reading it, to come and to do Google Meet chats with me, to ask me about some of the things that maybe they don't grasp entirely in the book, or maybe to give your opinion of something similar, you know, to engage on that level, on that high level, and that's what I'm looking for, basically. And if I can't find it on this channel, then the other option I have is I'm going to be sending my book to people who have channels, who are intellectual, and they speak in the way in which I want to engage with. And there's a few channels out there, and so I'm going to be doing that. And then I'm going to be sending my book to my favourite authors to see what they make of my ponderings and musings, if they have the time and interest to read it. And so, but in the interim, I'm going to be writing another book. I've got 3 books that I'm going to be writing in addition to this one, and so I'm going to be busy doing all that stuff. And so why would I want to waste my time putting up videos that barely a single person can even bother to thumb up? You know, we've been through all this, haven't we? And I don't get it. You people who, you know, you're on the channel now, oh hi, I'm glad you're back, and that, yeah, I'll put a video up and like, no response. I'm like, well, are you seriously expecting me just to continue on the premise of you not responding? What would that make me? That would make me a desperate fool, wouldn't it? Like 99% of YouTubers. Desperate fools. Please like and subscribe and like me. And all of this nonsense. Well, I've never been into that. Never going to get into that. So, let's have a look now. That's some of the table of contents. In actual fact, I think what I'll do is, I'll just say what I have to say, and then I'll make a separate video with the table of contents for people that don't have the time, the inclination to sit through my ramblings. Very, very few people have the time to actually just sit down and listen to what someone's got to say. And it's the sign of the times. The vast majority of people, they can't be blamed as such, because they're all caught up in it. We're caught up in a mass hypnosis. And if you've bought into the jobs and the mortgages and the cars and all these sort of things that you need money for, and you've got to go out and earn the money, then you're in the trap. I'm not in that trap. I haven't been in it for 15 years. And so therefore I can sit and listen and just give people the benefit of the doubt, because I've got 24 hours a day to do that at my disposal, you see. But if I only had an hour each day, then of course I'd need to be very selective. And if a video wasn't giving me what I need right now, then I'm going to be after flicking in my frustration. And what would happen is, because people wouldn't give it to me in a split second, then I would be flitting all around like a bee or a butterfly. And at the end of my allocated hour, I wouldn't have anything of any substance. I would just have a pile of fragments which would confuse me even more, frustrate me even more, send me into a negative spiral even more, you see. Because if we are going to get outside of this mental trap, then we need to allocate a great deal of time. Like I have. I've allocated 12 hours every single day of my life for these past 14 years. That's what it takes, people. And how many of you have that option? Very, very few. So therefore you'll remain in the Kali Yuga. You'll remain in this negative vibration. And in the book I speak about, it's closer to God. I'm speaking about getting closer to God, people. And God, as far as my terminology is concerned, is explained in the book. Sometimes I'm speaking about Jehovah, sometimes I'm speaking about Jesus, sometimes I'm speaking about the Tao Te Ching, sometimes I'm speaking about Dharma, sometimes I'm speaking about all different sort of mythological, cultural entities and deities. But ultimately, I'm speaking about that which is the cosmic creator, that God, which is unnameable. It can't be labeled as Allah and Buddha and Jehovah and Aurora Mazda or any of these. They're just serving ideas in a menu of religion. And you are in the restaurant and you pick up the menu and you choose whether you want a Western oriented religion, an Eastern oriented one, an African oriented one, Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, mythological or more present. You choose, you see. Now, those of us that have thinking minds, we can choose, but most of us don't have our own minds because we've been heavily indoctrinated, and so we have been indoctrinated with the inculcation of a certain religious paradigm from the get-go. And of course, in the Western world, we all know that from Sunday school, from kindergarten, we were propagandized with the Christian religion. All about the nativity show of the baby Jesus, and that's in our psyche. So in the book, when I speak about encountering Jehovah and Jesus and Satan and angels, well, that's got a great deal to do with me being a member of the collective unconscious in a Western oriented culture. If I was born Egyptian, then I'm pretty sure that I would have had visitations from Ra or Seti or any of those variety of deities. It's all about cultural, and the more we get involved, the more we think, and the more we introspect, and the more we observe what is actually going on, we can see that all that actually is going on is that there's programs here. We're being programmed, programs upon programs upon programs upon programs, and all we can do, even if we are the highest of thinking ability, is to think within the realms of our indoctrinated, propagandized paradigms. And so I can't think in an African tribe's person's mentality. I've got no idea what that is. And so if I met an African person, whom I've met lots by the way, and I spoke to them about their religion, and you see in Africa there are many, many religions. And the Africans all have two religions. They have their own indigenous religion, which is about their particular deities, and they all believe in juju and voodoo and all this spiritual stuff. They're very spiritually oriented, which is the fundamental premise of the human being, before we get the simulacrum overlaid of Western or Eastern modern religions, you see. And so there's lots of people in Africa that they are Christian, but at heart, at their core, they have another cultural roots religion, which is what they operate from. They only operate from the Christian religion because when they go to church, the pastor promises them that if they pay into the coffers of God, they all send the basket round and everyone pays into it. But if you pay into that, then you'll get 100 times more. And that's how these pastors become millionaires, you know. It's so laughable, it really is. And it's sad, very, very sad. And so there's a whole lot of stuff going on, and these days, because I've learned so much, the consciousness is just out there now. I don't have anything to say to you guys anymore. You know, in the old days I used to get a lot of engagement, you know, and I look back and think, well, why were people engaging with me, you know, all those years ago? Because I was speaking much more mundane, much more rudimental, and people could grasp that, they could grok it. But now very few people can grok where I'm coming from, because you haven't walked in my shoes, you haven't led the path, you haven't been through the dark night of the soul, you haven't been on the hero's journey, you haven't been compromised by abject evil like Satan himself. In the book I speak about being compromised by Satan himself for a long time, and then I speak about being in purgatory, you know, which basically is the dark night of the soul. You're just in the deepest depths of nothingness. You know, it's like when Nietzsche says, look into the abyss and the abyss will look back at you. When we go into the dark night of the soul, that's where we end up. And I was there for 7 years. And then slowly I started to come out of it. And then right at the end, in recent times, I can frequent heaven. I know what the kingdom of God is. I can go there whenever I want to, and I can see as clear as day what hell looks like and what heaven looks like. And they're all here, people. We don't have to go anywhere like in the centre of the earth to visit hell and up into the extremities of the world, you know, to walk in, you know, alongside Jesus and all this sort of thing. They're all metaphor. And how many silly people have we got that have been indoctrinated into the belief systems that that's all real? You only have to apply just a reasonable amount of logic and reasoning to see that none of that stuff carries any weight at all. It's just for the idiot. But there's a lot of idiots around. And that's why, you know, I'll probably get a lot of nasty letters with my book. Because my book, Closer to God, if people don't intuit from the blurb on the back of the book and on the write-up on Amazon what I'm speaking about, they think I'm speaking about their God. Whoa, they're in for a rocky fucking ride. Because this book is going to be bringing home some of the starkest realities any human being could ever consider. And for those who have got the stomach for it, it will be like a condensation of life with all of its peaks and troughs. Because that's what my last 14 years has been. The deepest troughs and the highest of peaks. And it's been an up and down and up and down and the swirling around, and wow! You know, it's been all of those things. So, you see, if I just sat here and I read my book and I was satiated in all manners. Like, I wasn't hungry, I wasn't thirsty, I wasn't tired, I wasn't stressed, I didn't have anywhere to go, there wasn't anything at the back of my mind that there's going to be these bills that need paying and I'm going to do this and do that. If I could be in that position, which I am, then I can close my eyes and I can let go of all of these matrixial concerns, because I don't have any concerns about my day-to-day living. Every single day is bliss if I want it. And if I want to spice things up, then I'll throw a spanner in the works, like I used to a lot of the time with making my videos. I'd be so in the bliss that I'm like, oh, let's just, let's just stoke up the fire a little bit now, stoke up these embers, and see who I can agitate, and then see what comes back. But I've got no interest in that anymore, people. Let me put this shirt over the camera. It's getting a bit hot. It's the warmest day of the year, I would think. Oof, I could even take this off. I'm sweating in this. So that's a turn up, isn't it? Step in the right direction. And as soon as we start to think about anything, then we are outside of the kingdom of God. And this concept will be very, very difficult for the vast majority of you to grasp, unless you have been there, unless you personally have experienced it. For those of you that are long-term meditators, then you would know where that space is. And you close your eyes and you close down your conscious mind, and you're in nirvana, you are in heaven, because there's nothing there except your awareness. And your awareness fundamentally is just super calm and bliss, and it's wonderful. And we can enter into those realms, and then as soon as we open our eyes, it's kind of like, oh, the brain kicks in, it goes, oh, you need a piss, you're hungry, you could do with a cup of tea or a glass of water or something, and then, oh, you're going to go shopping, have you got any beer in the fridge, what are you going to have for dinner tonight? And all of a sudden, whoa, all this shit goes around your head, and you're back in the matrix, you're back in hell, and so I speak about a lot of stuff in 725 pages, people, and so I'll finish this video here, and then I'll start speaking about the table of contents in the next video.